Hello, everyone. Good day to all of you. First things first, thank you very much for setting some time apart amidst your busy schedule and joining us for this event. My name is Vivin Sathyan, and I have been with ManageEngine for over 10 years now as a technical consultant. And I do two things as a part of my job profile. One is I take part in seminars and conferences, and I talk about technology and I talk about products. And the second thing is I also implement identity and access management solutions and also SIEM solutions in small, medium, and large organizations. So with that little bit of experience, I have put together a deck that's going to be talking about insider threats, and more importantly, the role of IAM and log forensics in thwarting insider threats. So let's get started. So when I say insider threats, I thought I'll start by by targeting a common technology platform, something like Active Directory, which has been around for more than 20 years. So what we're going to do now is we're going to try and take down Active Directory. I mean, I'm talking about the on-premise version of Active Directory. I have a reason to perform the hack. I'll let you know about it in a short while. So without any further delay, let's get started here. All right, so we are now going to jump to my virtual machine. So this is my 2012 R2 box. So what I'm about to do now is I am going to log into this server, assuming that I'm already a part of this Active Directory infrastructure, be it a technician or a help desk or any mid-level user. It need not be, let's say, an administrator. And now don't ask me how did I elevate my privileges to that of an administrator, because you have YouTube tutorials that teach you how to elevate privileges inside of Active Directory. So I'm not going to dive into how. I'm just going to be performing the hack, assuming that I already have basic access to a server. All right. So I'll be targeting two files for this Active Directory hack. The first file is going to be the Active Directory database. That's very obvious. So you go to C drive, Windows folder, NTDS folder, and you have the ntds.dit file. Okay. Now this file, as you already know, has all your user information, and this file also has your password information. All right. Now this file is encrypted. So in order to probably unlock this file, you need the key. And the key is present inside of a different folder. So you go to C drive, Windows folder, system32 config, and you have the system file, right? So you need these two files to target or to compromise any Active Directory infrastructure as an insider. And it's not that very simple. You cannot just do a right-click copy and then say, paste. You'll not be able to do this, okay? Because when I try to do this, you'll see an error message popping in. So you see the error message popping up. So obviously we get a file and use error message. So the other option is I can install a Ripper software and then try and copy the two files that I want. But the minute I install something on a domain controller, the alarm goes off. So you would like to perform this action with minimal digital trails, right? As an insider. So I'm going to be using the command prompt, and I'm going to be using a built-in utility by command prompt called, by Microsoft called the VSS admin, right? So I'm going to be using VSS admin, and I have a command called the create shadow command, and I'm going to copy the entire C drive, okay? Now, you might ask me, why copy the entire C drive? It's just that we need those two files, the ntds.dit file, and you also need the system file, but why copy the entire C drive? Well, the answer for that is both the target files that we are, it's the Active Directory database, and also the key file are present inside the C drive, okay? Now, as you can see here, we have now successfully created the copy of the entire C drive. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to be working with the shadow copy volume name of C drive, okay? So let's try and copy the Active Directory database first. So copy. So this is how your C colon is represented in the shadow copy. So I'm going to be copying this, all right? Copy Windows folder, ntds folder and then ntds.dit file. I'd like to paste this file on the desktop, so I'm going to do C users Vivin-143A. That's my username, and I'm going to paste this file on the desktop. All right. So when I hit enter, you will be seeing the Active Directory database getting pasted somewhere here on the desktop. Okay. Hit enter. It says, all right, it's taking its time. It says one file copied, and you have the Active Directory database getting pasted, right? Now, you get the idea, right? The essence here is we now have the Active Directory database file, which has your user and password information. All you have to do is just repeat the command, change the location, and copy the system file, okay? These two are the files that are required to take down any Active Directory infrastructure, okay? And by the way, this is a 3-stage attack, and just because we are pressed for time, I'm not going to dive into the details. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip to the last stage, right? So I told you that this file has password information. To be more precise, this file has password hashes, right? So if your password is, let's say, password at 123, okay? And if that's the case, I wish you the best of luck. So let's say that the hashed version of the password is in this file, okay? So what I've done here is I've already extracted the hashes using the system file. So the hashes will look something like this after extraction. You see this? Okay. So this could be the password of one user. This could be the password of the second user. All these are hashes. So you're just one step away from knowing what the user passwords are. So you do a Control-A, Control-C because these are hashes, and hashing is one way. You cannot reverse it. So you'll have to crack the hashes. So you copy the hashes. You open up a browser and you open up a free password hash cracker because I live on a budget, right? So you paste the hashes, you confirm that you are not a robot, right? And you can use any password hash cracker. There are hundreds of them available. I personally like TrackStation because I find it much more easier to work with, okay? So I'm just pasting the hashes here. So it's taking its time. Just waiting for it to confirm that I am robot. I'll just hit crack hashes, okay? And I'll be able to know what the user passwords are. All right, so I'm just going to give it a couple of seconds. All right, just to see. Let's try and do this. I'm just going to do a quick refresh. So let's try and paste the hashes once again. I confirm that I'm not a robot. So I hit crack hashes, and there you go. So you have the hash that was used for hashing. The algorithm right there is SJ1. You'll also be able to crack other algorithms as well, MD5, you name it, we have it. So you have the user passwords right here. Now think about it for a quick second. What we have done here is we have now copied the Active Directory database, and this database has user information in it. So this has close to 300 employee accounts, let's say, okay? This is a demo setup. Now with let's say 10 or 15 passwords in my hand and access to this specific server, Active Directory is under my control, all right? So this is a classic example of insider threat, especially when it's targeted against a widely used technology platform like Active Directory. Why? Because if you have on-prem and you're operating hybrid, let's say, chances are you have Azure and you also have a cloud vertical, okay? Your on-prem talks to your Azure talks to your SaaS vertical, and the communication is bi-directional. So whether we like it or not, if this gets hit, all right, it's just a matter of time that the attack surface moves to your Azure and also the cloud verticals, right? All right, so now let's focus on our topic. Let's talk about a bit about insider threats. Now, the number one thing to do today is to secure user identities. Of course, we have a lot of identities. You have device identity, application, network identity, and all that. But I really believe that user identity protection should be given its due importance. Why? For one simple reason, right? Humans are still the weakest link in the IT security chain. I know this is a cliche. This is 2022. We are talking about advanced stuff, but humans are still the weakest link, right? So you cannot, take away the user parameter from the IT security realm of things, and then hope that everything is fine. Okay, so this is why I really believe that you should be focusing on insider threats, especially focus more on user identities. All right. Now that some of us are still working from home, we go to office 3 days, work from home 2 days. So it's a hybrid work culture. So we have a new network perimeter. Initially, it was all on-prem and everything was inside four walls, inside your corporate network. And even if external users wanted access to your corporate network, you had VPN and network access control. But with hybrid work model, what has happened here is we see that data is increasingly stored outside of corporate walls, and people are accessing enterprise applications, enterprise data from a variety of devices, from a variety of locations. So, right, it's not have a clear demarcation of what is not corporate network, right? All of a sudden, it looks like your data is everywhere. Okay, so people are accessing it from any device that they want, from any network that they choose, right? So how do you deal with the soft boundaries problem is that's when people started, leveraging a hybrid Active Directory security principles at a very, very, very rapid rate. Okay. But the problem with such rapid adoption of cloud technology is you have something called as lack of transparency. With on-prem, you had more control over the data that you are governing, but I really believe that we do not have the same level of control in governing the data that's in the cloud. Okay, I really believe that there's a lack of transparency element there. So this is how the cycle goes. Okay, if you just follow the chart at the bottom, we started off with on-prem and then we moved to hybrid. With hybrid, we had the lack of transparency problem. So what happened was organizations started adopting more applications, especially IT security applications that gave them the insights of what is happening in the cloud at the same time what's happening in the on-prem. Okay, so the problem that we are trying to address now is a different problem altogether. We are not talking about, let's say, on-prem, we are not talking about cloud, but we are talking about an identity management problem, right? So you have identities for one user, for one physical user, you at least have three different identities. So you have an identity for that user on premise, you have an identity for the same user in Azure, and you also have an identity for the user in your, let's say, one of your cloud platforms or in SaaS. So the problem that we're trying to address now, especially in 2022, with the advent of hybrid work and all that, is managing fragmented identities, right? So you have one physical identity and multiple fragmented identities. So when you have fragmented identities, how do you go about securing them? Well, we'll have to do three things. One, you'll have to ensure secure access for every user, application, and device, irrespective of their location, because I've already mentioned location is not a trust factor anymore. And the access that you grant to them should be really contextual. It should not be too hard. At the same time, it should not compromise security by being too user-friendly, right? So it's all about striking the right balance. And the third point is, in order to secure user identity and your corporate data, you'll have to create access policies, contextual policies based on location, IP, and device, right? So this is the fragmented identities problem that we have been going through, especially in the last 2 years. Okay. Okay. What is the solution? So we know what the problem is. So we have discussed about the problem quite a bit. So what is the solution? How do you bring all these fragmented identities under one umbrella? Well, one way by which you can bring all these fragmented identities under one umbrella is by implementing zero trust. Okay. And zero trust is not a new technology. It's not something that was, discovered in 2021 or early part of 2022. No. So it has been there for more than 10 years now. Okay. Now, let me ask you something. I mean, we've been talking about zero trust for more than 10 years now. And anywhere you turn, you'll hear this term called zero trust. But let me really ask you something. How many of you listening to this to this session right now have successfully implemented zero trust? Okay? Because I ask this question in almost all conferences that I take part of, and trust me, I travel the world. And the answer to that is a no. More often than not, it's a no. Okay, so this means that we have a wonderful technology. Okay, just because it's blown out of proportion, we have people giving their own definitions, people making it more complex. So all this has resulted in zero trust not gaining the traction that it deserves. And if you are someone looking at implementing zero trust, I believe that this would be the right point or right time to start. Okay? And you need not completely reinvent the wheel to begin your zero trust journey. You can begin your zero trust journey with the tools that you already have, something like an identity and access management solution and a SIEM solution. How? Well, you have the 4 points right here. So zero trust, as we all know, is all about never trust, always verify, right? So the first thing that an IAM solution can do is it can help you in verifying and then providing access to corporate information, to corporate data for every user, for every device that is attempting to access the data, irrespective of it be in the on-prem or in the cloud. Number two, it helps you implement JIT. Now, what do I mean by JIT is just-in-time access. So you want the access only for a stipulated time. You want the access to be revoked after that. Yes, you'll be able to do that. Number three, an efficient IAM solution can also help you with basic activities, let's say like cleaning up. So you want your Active Directory, you want your Office 365 to be scanned once every 6 months for stale accounts, for empty groups, for permissions that are not used, and you want to sequentially purge them. A good IAM solution will be able to help you do all that. And this is an effective part of a zero trust strategy. And number four is, last but not the least, it'll help you, an SIEM solution, which all of us have. If you couple your SIEM solution with good machine learning algorithms, it'll help you inspect all kinds of traffic, not just network traffic, user-generated traffic, device-generated traffic, other network-related traffic, and then it'll help you decode behaviors. Now, what do I mean by decoding behavior? If I gave you my laptop and I gave you my username and password, and I asked you to work on my laptop for 30 minutes, right? So your pattern, your digital pattern on my laptop is going to be very much different from my digital pattern, right? So same laptop, same username and password, but two different users accessing the laptop, right? So we have two different behavioral models. So it's good that you have an SIEM solution, but if you couple the SIEM solution with, let's say, machine learning algorithms, that's when it takes shape, right? So by doing all these, you can very well kickstart your zero trust process. It's not as hard as it sounds, right? Now, we are a vendor that have offerings for both, for the IAMPs as well as for the SIMPs. So if at all if you want to begin your zero trust journey with Manage Engine, we'd be more than happy to help you with these two products, right? So once again, the problem that we're trying to manage here is managing fragmented identities, and the solutions that you already have, the IAMPs and the SIMPs that you already have, will help you successfully take the first steps in your zero trust journey, which I really believe is the need of the hour. And it need not be that complicated, okay? You can do basic things. So I'm going to quickly end the session with that. And if you'd like to get in touch with me, if you'd like to hit me up in LinkedIn, this is my ID. And if you'd like to get in touch with me via email, please go ahead. I hope you were able to take away some useful information pertaining to insider threats and pertaining to managing fragmented identities, in the last 20, 25 minutes. Thank you very much for your time and patience. All of you have a wonderful day.